Before we get started, if you like what you see today and want more content from Phyrexian Pit, please hit that like and subscribe button, and be sure to smash that bell to stay in touch with all the videos that we put out. Hello everyone, I'm TJ with Phyrexian Pit, joined today for the Gauntlet of Jank by Charlie. Charlie, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good. So today we will be playing Liliana's Adaptation, and it will be going up against Teysa Orzhov. So I'll be piloting Liliana's Adaptation. So what this deck is actually looking to do is it's a combo deck of sorts, looking to combo off with the combination between Liliana's Contract and Arcane Adaptation. So with Liliana's Contract, if we get 4 or more demons on the battlefield with different names, we win the game. And there's different ways that this deck could have been built, but the way that it ended up going is turning all of our creatures into demons using the enchantment Arcane Adaptation. In addition to that main combo, we actually have a couple good creatures that synergize pretty well with Arcane Adaptation if we get one out, with the Scarab God turning all of our creatures into zombies, and with Unesh actually turning all of our creatures into sphinxes. So we have both those things going for us. And this deck is a little bit controlling too, which helps. We definitely want to try and disrupt our opponent while we're trying to set up our own combo and try and win from there. So what about Teysa? What is Teysa looking to do, Charlie?
Well, Teysa, I mean, as hopefully we all know her, she's a pretty solid creature because she's basically just a Death Harmonicon. So Teysa's looking to just get on the board. You want to get your cheap creatures out there, like your Cruel Celebrants, stuff like that. Your kitties, throw them into the oven, all that good stuff, and just shower death triggers and try to kind of go off there. We've also got, some Midnight Riders for some nice removal. Blood for Bones is a nice little combo piece there. And of course, the Cavaliers of Night and Dawn, because they are gas in this deck.
Cavaliers are definitely pretty powerful, no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, without further ado, shall we hop into the game?
Let's get it started.
All right, I will go ahead and send you a challenge. And I will also talk to you after the matches are over, and we'll
Yes.
check in then and see how they did.
Yeah, hopefully I punt less. I took off my Raider hat, so hopefully. See you on the other side.
Yep. Okay, game one, Liliana's Adaptation versus Teysa Orzhov. We won the die roll, so we will be going first. Looking at this hand, we have some spells, we have some things. We don't have any of our combo pieces. We don't really have any early plays. It is tempting to keep it because we do have some powerful 4-drops here. I think risky. We'll risk it, and hopefully we'll get there. Gonna go ahead and lead on the Submerged Boneyard, since it's just a strictly worst fetid pools, and pass it over to our opponent here. Now, one thing that we do have to watch out for from our opponent is it is death triggers, and they actually have some decent cards against us. The Cavaliers getting going is pretty obnoxious. But other than that, we're both kind of looking to do our own things and value out. We do have to pay attention to our life total because Liliana's contract drains us for 4 when it comes into play. It can be a bit dangerous for us to play it, especially once his engine gets going and he's able to start sacking off creatures, gaining a ton of life, draining us down. We kind of get into the red zone. So the goal for this game is to win while only having to cast 1 Liliana's contract. Thankfully, I do not believe he's running any enchantment disruption of sorts, so we should be pretty good there. The oven is really good for his deck. It just turns on all of his sacrifices. It blanks our exile effects, or at least, allows his stuff to still die and trigger die triggers, which can be painful for us. We did hit our 4th land, which is good, so we can go ahead and run out this Aether Sphere Harvester. Now, we can Hostage Taker the Witch's Oven potentially, too. Our opponent plays a Plains and casts a Midnight Reaper. Just pretty good. Gets the drawing going. I'm tempted to run out the Hostage Taker just to pick off the Witch's Oven. Then we can start getting in with the Harvester. I think I'm okay with that. We can play the Submerged Boneyard next turn with nothing in our hand costing 5, and then we still have our other 4-drop with Chupacabra next turn too. So we'll go ahead and take the oven. Make sure the cats stay out of there. It's always important to make sure your cats stay out of your oven, because they really like it in there for whatever reason. And we'll go ahead and get in for 3, and we will use this life link now because it's pretty safe to do so, and we want to gain the life because he's so good at draining us over time. And we'll ship it back to him. So Temple of Silence, scries to the top. We will see what his follow-up is. He's holding the Midnight Reaper back. Apparently does not want to keep the race going full speed ahead. We will let him draw a card, though. Blow up the Reaper. Then we'll go ahead and crew up our Harvester here. And get in for 5. Next turn, we do have an Unish if we so desire. And the nice thing about Unish is that it lets us factor Fiction, which is a difficult card. It takes a lot of skill in order to split piles, especially unknowing or not knowing what's in our hand. So he's going to Cavalier of Dawn and blow up something to get a 3/3 token. Looks like he will blow up our vehicle. We did lose out on gaining 3 life there, because he did have 3 mana up, and it is potentially dangerous to send that into a removal spell, or that's what we were looking to avoid anyway. So I think this turn, we just go ahead and Windmill Slam Unish, and then we at least have a clock starting next turn. It is tempting to play the Gifted Aetherborn. Well, we could, let's back up here. If we do the Witch's Oven, we can sacrifice a creature, but that still doesn't turn on Fatal Push for Cavalier, because it's CMC 5. If he does play a Teysa at some point, that could be something that we could think about, but I think it's pretty safe to Unish and Factor Fiction here. And more than likely probably pass back after that. We did hit a decent pile here. I'll be curious to see how he splits it. I would assume the Chupacabra in the Swamp versus the Freebooter in the Aetherborn. So the Freebooter really doesn't take anything from his deck other than the Witch's Oven, which he probably doesn't have in hand currently, and he definitely won't next turn if we take it. The Aetherborn is pretty solid, being a 2/3 Death Touch with lifelink, but I think I want the removal spell here in the Chupacabra, and then we can get his guys next turn, and hopefully he doesn't have another Cavalier to run out for us. So we can blow up one and then maybe Fatal Push, take off whatever else he plays, and go from there. His life total is a little low with our flyer out, but he does potentially have removal spells. He does have plenty of Murderous Riders to take him out. So it looks like he's going to be scrying again. Figure out if that's to the top or the bottom. Puts a card to the top. Midnight Rider is a good card. It's going to let him draw cards off of the death of both of his creatures, if that's what we choose to do here. So we're playing the Swamp no matter what. We have access to 7 mana, which means we can Ravenous Chupacabra, play the Witch's Oven. That's 5 mana, which leaves us 2 left over for the Gifted Aetherborn, and then we can sack one of the Chupacabras to the Oven to trigger Revolt on the Fatal Push. Probably the Chupacabra that we play, which would then allow us to get in for 11 points of damage Exacxes. So that's what we're going to go for here. So again, we'll go ahead and Chupacabra. I forgot that each time one of his creature dies, he loses a life too, so this will actually help us in more ways than one. So he'll go down to 9, and we have 10 points of power on the board. And I don't believe that there's anything in his main deck that he can play to get out of this. I think this is just the game. Not exactly how we drew it up without Liliana's Contract or Arcane Adaptation, but we'll take the win. on to boarding. So in the board, there isn't really much that I like about his deck that I like to bring in against this deck. I'm going to bring in the Plague Mares and the Aether Sphere Harvesters. And I'm going to trim the freebooters because, again, the only things in his deck that they hit are the Witch's Ovens and the Blood for Bones. There's only 2 of them in the deck. He probably will bring in Duresses from the sideboard, but that's probably going to be his turn 1 play. And then the other card I will cut will be the Omen Speaker here. We do want actually this 4th Fatal Push too. So we'll go ahead and bring that in, and we will cut the Sailor of Means. Not having a ton of different creatures with different names does hurt us in completing our combo with the Liliana's contract, but having the extra removal spell, I think it's worth it. Game 2, we'll keep this. Got some land. Got some creatures in it too. I do like being able to scry too, and our hand is pretty protected from duress. He can pick off the Fatal Push, but not the end of the world if he does. Our opponent is going to go ahead and lead on a Temple of Silence and puts the card to the bottom. It's a good sign for us. Drew a combo piece in Arcane Adaptation. It's the worst of the 2 combo pieces, but we'll take it. 1 step closer to winning the game. Let's see if he takes the push or the adaptation here. Hopefully he'll take the adaptation. It's a little bit worse for us, I think, in this situation. But it is a combo piece, so it is scary too for that regard. Does have the oven, so we'll go ahead and play our Scavenger Grounds here. And we will run out our Omen Speaker. I like both of these cards, actually, so I'll keep them both. I would like to draw the Champion of Wits next turn first, though. Cruel Celebrant is pretty good. So we do have our Liliana's contract, which we probably should keep. It does draw us 4 cards, which makes me think this Unish isn't as good. It's tempting to get rid of just the Fetid Pools here, but I think we gotta play it just because it guarantees us getting up to 5 for our Liliana's contract. Plus it's black mana, and we do have quite a bit of double black cards as well. Oh, we do have to discard 2 cards here. So in that case, I think the second card that we discard here is probably the Island. And hope to draw another land for our contract by turn 5 in the next couple turns. Now, the Merfolk Trickster is actually pretty good in this matchup in that we can play it in response to certain death triggers to blank whatever card is looking to gain the most value out of the death triggers. So back to our turn, we did hit our land, which is exactly what we were hoping for. I'm very tempted to just Fatal Push this here. I think I will, just so I can start getting in 3 points of damage. And this is likely going to be what we Fatal Push anyways. He will go ahead and get himself the food token. Negate our swing here this turn, essentially. Although I think it's probably fairly unlikely he uses that food token this turn. Might be wise to save it for a cat, but you never know. It is pretty mana efficient if he's doing nothing else. And we'll pass it back. So he probably doesn't have a cat in hand. That's what we just learned there. Although I suppose with 2 Witch's Ovens, there's no way he doesn't play a cat. So we'll go ahead and play our Field of Ruin. And we will start getting in for 3. And we'll go ahead and jam our first combo piece and draw 4 cards. Oh, but we do have to tap properly in order to do that. So maybe we should do that first. Let's see what we draw. So we mostly hit some lands here. We did get a Vraska's Contempt. Hit way more lands than what we were looking to there. So he's tapping 3 black here. He could be considering Murderous Riding just for a blocker. Hard to say. Could also be a Midnight Reaper as well. Thankfully, we do have the Vraska's Contempt for whatever it does happen to be. I think we do want the 6 mana here, just because we want to cycle these Fetid Pools. And I do think I would like to keep pressuring his life total. So I think we'll go ahead and get that off of the board. I think he's pretty pinched on mana right now. Having only the 2 there, I think kind of hurts him. That's pretty good for him. He does get a fairly consistent blocker because of that. And because he has a food token, he can bring it back. But we can potentially hold up these scavenger grounds in the future to try and get rid of it. So we'll play the Deadlands. I'm not sure it's going to do anything here. We'll go ahead and get in with both. If he wants to trade with the champion, we're totally okay with that because we can internalize it back. So if he does go to crack this other food here, we can nuke the graveyard. Although I suppose not, since it's no longer in the graveyard. So we will go ahead. We could kill the Midnight Reaper here. I do kind of like leaving the Deadlands potentially as an out for both the Scavenger Grounds as well as for the Champion of Wits. It would be nice to get back a 4/4 at some point. Going back to our turn. Vraska's Contempt is pretty good with the Midnight Reaper here. Go ahead and play the Swamp and swing in with the crew. See how he wants to block here. Now, he might be tempted to just trade with this Champion of Wits, but we'll see. If he does activate that Witch's Oven, we do get to exile the Reaper. Alright, and so we'll go ahead and pass the turn back. Ooh, he forgot to bring back his Cauldron Familiar, which is one nice little thing. If he doesn't have anything else to play this turn, now he probably is tempted to play probably something like a Teysa. You gotta assume that he has it at this point by turn 9. So we do have an answer to the Teysa probably on the board here. And we just drew another one too. So that's probably not too bad. So I think we still get in with these two. Because if he blocks with the Teysa, then we just get to remove it with the Deadlands. We're almost at a point, I think, where it might make more sense to... We will fight over this Cauldron's Familiar in this spot here. So we have the potential to exile. Well, I guess we only can do it once here. Definitely makes this tricky. I think we let this go. And from here, we probably pass back to him. I'm tempted to push this Champion of Wits into the graveyard here. But we could also use it to take out the Teysa as well. And this is exactly what I meant by Cats Love the Oven. His deck is fairly grindy. So I think here we have to kill the Teysa in response, unfortunately. So we'll go ahead and pop the Temple. That'll trigger our Revolt here. Unfortunately, he does get an extra mana out of this. We can't let him draw cards like crazy. So he's going to go ahead and play the Midnight Reaper. Going to gain some life. So unfortunately, I guess we can't Deadlands here. It's only as a sorcery. I thought that was an instant. That's okay. We can do it on our turn. Probably should have tapped that for mana, but that's okay. So it looks like he's going to sacrifice the cat here in order to get maximum value out of this Midnight Reaper before it actually dies. He's gaining quite a bit of life, drawing quite a few cards. It's very impressive that his deck has managed to stay in this. Looks like he's just going to take the 7. We'll go ahead and run out our champion before we play any lands. Because if we draw 2 non-land cards, we'll likely pitch both the lands. Scarab God is a good card. It allows us to start really getting creatures out of graveyards. And we can start activating it next turn too. And I do think he is at a point where he is going to have to start playing cards. He's not going to be able to hold stuff in his hand, hold up mana for removal spells. So he likely probably does have at least one removal spell in hand. Okay, Blood for Bones here, which allows him to put one creature back into play and another back to his hand. Okay, so he's returning the Teysa. And let's see what his second creature. Cruel Celebrant. And now he's going to return the cat back to play. So, I believe if we attack, we want to attack with the Omen Speaker because we can't actually kill the Teysa if he blocks with it. So I guess it's better to leave it back as a blocker when you're down to 8 life. So we are going to get to take out this Teysa here. And follow that up with a Gaunty. Unfortunately, that hurts us for next turn. We won't be able to Scarab God plus exile something. Okay, he's gonna go ahead and get some food for it. Might as well. Did get it off the board, thankfully. We're probably going to take this Blood for Bones. Being able to sack the Champion of Wits, get something back, plus return something to our hand, that sounds pretty good. He's almost at a point where he can just straight up kill us, unfortunately. I think the correct call here is to go ahead and cast our Blood for Bones. Sacrificing a champion. And then we'll return the Trickster to our hand. If we hit an Arcane Adaptation, he has to kill us. He can drain us for 4. He can drain us for 8, essentially. And we really don't have the ability to do anything about it. Because he can sack the Cauldron Familiar twice. Return it. So, 4, 8. Yeah, unfortunately, we just have to kill the Cruel Celebrant, otherwise we just lose on the spot. So we'll put this one into our hand. Go ahead and send that there. Looks like he's gonna probably double sack the cat here, just to trigger both the Cruel Celebrant triggers before it dies, to maximize the amount of damage he does to us. So he's gonna drain us for quite a bit here. He can hit us for 2 more. If he draws another Cruel Celebrant, which he likely has going through about half his deck, he should have hit a second one by now. But we'll see. So we'll go ahead and play the Gifted Etherborn. And the reason we're playing that one is so we can leave up the Trickster. Yeah, unfortunately, I think we were just one turn too late. I do believe we were supposed to bring in the Sorcerer's Spyglasses if we hadn't. Ah, yeah, that'll do it. Because now he can return it. Yep, that's the game. Good game. So we'll go ahead and hop over to game 3. Now, again, I think I was supposed to bring these in. So what we'll cut down that Fatal Push that we brought in, and we're actually going to cut a single copy of Arcane Trickster. We still want creatures, but we want ones with different names to really trigger our Liliana's contract. So that's why we're cutting the Trickster as opposed to the Omen Speaker, even though I think it's better. We still need the creatures with different names. The Spyglass should have been in to go on the Witch's Oven or the Cauldron Familiar. We will play first on this game. We do have our Sorcerer's Spyglass, which is one of our better cards in the matchup, so we're definitely going to keep this hand. We don't have our combo pieces, but we have 3 mana to get to Champion of Wits, and we can go from there. We have both of our cards deserts. We can sacrifice Scavenger Grounds to nuke the graveyards at some point too. It's a solid hand against what his deck is trying to do, if not what we're trying to do. So he'll Temple of Silence and puts a card to the bottom. Unfortunately, that Drowned Catacombs is a little bit slow here, but we may draw something to make it more worthwhile. And we will name Witch's Oven. That's a pretty good hand, especially with the Cruel Celebrant and the Cauldron Familiar. But it is nowhere near as good without the combo. I mean, because clearly, as we saw last game, he isn't going to be a responsible pet owner and keep his cat out of the oven. So, you know, we just got to shut this down right now. And he ships it back to us. I don't want him to know about the Scavenging Grounds yet, so we'll go ahead and not play it yet. So I think the Scarab God pretty well wins us the game if we can get to it, unless he has several removal spells. He does run a handful of removal, though. It's a tough call. It's a tough 2 cards to discard. I do want to play Steal His Cruel Celebrant. That seems like it could be fun. So I think we'll get rid of the Chupacabra and I think the Contract. Even though the Contract is one of our combo pieces, we're okay with this game going slow. We're in a good place. We know what a decent chunk of his hand is. It's not too scary. Cruel Celebrant right on cue, and the Witch's Oven. And he also played a Castle Lockwayne. So we're down to just a couple unknown cards at this point. Chooses not to get in here, which is A-okay in my book. So we will go ahead. Yeah, we'll go ahead and run out this Hostage Taker, because if he does end up killing it here, it's a removal spell that we get out of his hand, which means that that's that much longer before he has something for the Scarab God. He only can have 1 right now, too. He does run 4 Murderous Riders, but he also runs 3 Cavaliers of Knights as well. So we'll go ahead and offer the trade. Second Cruel Celebrant is pretty good. So I think we're definitely going to slam the Scarab God here. But first, I think we're going to get in with both of our guys. See if he wants to make any trades. We're okay with the Champion of Wits dying, because it's actually cheaper to bring back with the Scarab God than it is its actual Eternalize cost. So if he ever does get some food tokens somehow, he can start bringing back those familiars. But I don't believe he's running any ways to do so without de-oven.
So I think he has to start repeatedly killing the Scarab God at this point. Otherwise, it's just going to run away with the game over the long haul.
The fact that we can just continually bring creatures out of the graveyard, it's just a solid card overall. So I think one of the things that we're learning with this deck is that it doesn't necessarily have to combo off in order to win. So we're going to go ahead and do this now. Well, we could get the Chupacabra. I think we're going to get the Chupacabra. We want to get in damage. We want this game to end. The reason we're doing this on our upkeep is because we're going to do it anyway, more than likely, depending on what we draw, of course. But it's better to do it here, so that way we at least get the scry. That can stay on top for now. That's not really great in this situation, but if he does run out a bunch of Chumperinos, we can probably kill them that way. So we don't know anything that's in his hand anymore. So he's in a pretty rough spot here. Okay, and he's shipping the turn back to us. So again, we're probably going to be doing this regardless, so we might as well do it now. And then we at least get more value out of the Scarab God, because we're just trying to run away with the game at this point. I think we're over-tapping. Go ahead and draw 4, and then discard 2. We will take another Spyglass just in case something happens to that one, and we might as well get in for 11 points and see if he's got any removal spells here to try and keep himself alive for one more turn. And it doesn't look like he does. So let's go ahead and get to talking. Hello there, sir.
GG's.
GG's. Man, that Witch's Oven, or the Sorcerer's Spyglass on that Witch's Oven in that last game just totally shut you down.
Yep. It was the only thing I had, because, I mean, I had 4 lands in that opener, so I was like, all right, this is cool. And I just have PTSD from that 3 land hand I kept and didn't draw. I didn't draw any land until turn 10. Like, it was incredible drawing all that. You can. Well, so I guess my thoughts. I had a feeling that Teysa wouldn't be quite as good, just because, Teysa's good, but the problem is, you got to build up your board, and especially a deck like that has a lot of removal. It's just hard to do that.
It is. That's one thing that I noticed is when I was able to remove a lot of your early gaming threats, this deck kind of ran away with it. It's once you get your engine going, though, this deck I don't think can beat your deck. Your deck can just slowly grind away anyone once that engine gets going. So do you have anything else to say about Teysa and Liliana's adaptation?
No, I think we kind of covered it all there. Nothing else I really can think of.
All right, well, hopefully we'll catch you guys next time in the next matchup.